Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, picking up where we left off at the No2 Rocks campground in Canunda National Park. So packed up in the morning, packed up the rooftop tent. There's the long drop just heading out of camp. There's actually two exits to get out of camp. I've just gone this way because it was closest. A little bit of a breeze around today, and as you can probably tell from the colour of the sky, it was a little bit cooler today than the other days, but we did by and large have pretty good weather. Certainly by comparison, compared to when I'm editing this now, it's been 40 plus degrees. Would have been scorching on the coast here, but we might have gone in for a swim had it been that warm. So just looking at the side track there, that track I think actually goes down to the coast to No2 Rocks, but I think a couple of guys checked that out earlier this morning, and you can't drive along that section of beach. So we stayed on this main inland track, and we're heading up to Cape Banks, Lighthouse and Carpenters Rocks. So again, we've got some of this limestone rock through here, and you can see it's a bit of a rabbit warren of tracks. This is always just shown on the maps as just one track, but it's never quite that simple. And again, generally where there was a left and right option, assume that was for oncoming traffic potentially, so generally try to stick to taking the left-hand option. Not that we've seen a lot of people on this trip. You can see the sand there just built up on the dunes, the vegetation holding it together. It really is an amazing landscape through here. So you can see this end had a keep left sign. Making pretty good time. As I said, these tracks typically haven't been that difficult. Probably got maybe a 10k run down to Cape Banks from No2 Rocks. And you can see some dunes there on the left, clearly not designed to be driven on, with the fence in place there. And the track changing from sand to rock to dirt and back to sand all over again. A little bit off camber in sections, and you can see some light rain on the bottom there. We never did get any very heavy rain, but we did get a little bit of light rain. Nice and tight in sections with the bush sort of closing in on the track. And that left-hand line was pretty well chewed up, so I could see there was no one upcoming. I did take the easier option, took that right-hand line, but crossed back over to the left through here. section of the track there dug down between some rock, a little bit off camber, as you can see from the angle of the vehicle as well. It was quite an enjoyable drive through here. A nice twisty sort of track. Car gets up on some angles, not dangerous, and generally we could maintain a pretty good pace through this section of the track. The obligatory roller coaster ride. And then a little bit lumpy just on this section of the climb. You can see how the track's cut down into the dune through here. And just how dense that sole push stuff is looking ahead. So up on the rock again through here, and there's a couple of exits. This one's a fairly steep drop off, and I've taken that sort of just on the angle, dropped the front right wheel down, and then let the left hand side wheel sort of come down more gradually. The Grenadier wagon's got a really good departure angle, much better than the 76 or the Pajero, and basically never hit the back on any departures, which is really good. Another section of that big sheet limestone rock here. Track clearly running around there to the left. As I said in the last video, this is not a particularly wide piece of land here, with Lake Bonnie on the what is our left or the northeastern side, and just elected to drive that and then bring the wheels down at the end where there was less of a drop, and the ocean on what is our right or the southwestern side. With all this salt bush and everything around it, the track sort of cut in the way it is, it's not terribly apparent when you're driving. You sort of feel like you're in the middle of the bush somewhere, but definitely not the case. Track coming up off to the side, beach access, maybe. Decided to go and have a look anyway, that's for sure. At least one of us thought it was beach access. Encouraged by seeing the ocean, and that shows you just how close we are to the actual ocean when you don't even realise it or see a glimpse of it. So definitely got some access here. So we followed a sidetrack, trying to get down to look at the Admella wreck. Not knowing if it was visible, but I think it's a submerged wreck. Come out onto the beach here off the main track, just on the south end of the Admella Flats, and the beach is, I'll just flick that. Beach is super off camber. Tide's on its way in. You can see that where the high tide mark is, and if you can see those wheel tracks there next to me, it is super soft. So we're reversing and exiting stage left.
And do this, turn around on the beach. Right again, Joe.
All good, I'll pull forward again.
So yeah, look, we've had our share of adventures and misadventures on the soft sand here, and let me just show you. I mean, that's what we're looking at, and you can see the ocean's just right there. So you know, and whether there's a beach exit down there or not, it's unclear.
It looks super soft in your left. I'm scared to go into that. You can back up more.
So yeah, a little bit out of sync there with the two pieces of footage, but I think you get the idea. That beach was really, really soft. Tide's on its way in because it is still fairly early in the morning. So it was just, yeah, a no-brainer that we pass on that opportunity. We know we've got some beach driving coming ahead of us, so stick on the inland track for now. Look, if the tide had been out and that sort of thing, you know, by all means, we probably would have had a crack. But the tide was on its way in and the beach was already pretty narrow and off camber. And nobody wanted to drown their rig in the salt water. So, yeah, we are stuck on the inland track. And you can see what looks like a little bypass track or something there on the right. I suspect that's probably an old alignment of the track. There's certainly evidence with the way the fencing's been installed through here that the alignment of the track has changed over the years, much like they do in the high country. Obviously, you know, if it gets too eroded or whatever, the rangers come through and move the alignment. A little bit promising here. We're looking like getting close to the beach again. Was an access just down there, but again, looking down there, you could see that it was much the same as earlier, and the tide's still on its way in. We're not past high tide, so it just wasn't the opportune time to get on the beach at this time. See a little bit of a climb coming up ahead. It always makes you wonder, you know, how soft is it going to be, but these inland tracks were very, very drivable with appropriate tyre pressures. So we're all running under 20 psi. Everybody's running slightly different pressures. Luca generally was probably the lowest. Adam might have been similar to Luca, around 10-12 psi. I was running sort of 14 to 16 psi. And I'm not 100% sure on Dan and Paul, but they were definitely under 20 psi as well. And that's what you need for this sort of sand driving. Open section through here, and quickly it changes again. A lot of vegetation on the dunes through here, so we're holding them in place and preventing erosion. Again, you can see one of those water holes. Certainly no need for us to drive through that one. And easy enough to take the high road around it. No evidence of the tyre tracks. I don't think at this time of year anyone was driving through there. There just wasn't the need. Looks like probably some motorbikes maybe through that one. Or around it anyway. Just about coming to the lighthouse now, so the bridge there was a little bit of a surprise. after that little bridge, little section of track out onto the road here, and we turn right here, which I seem not to realise and left it a little bit late, challenging the turning circle of the Grenadier. I don't think a quick 3-point turn doesn't solve. And yeah, just a couple of K's run down here to Cape Banks Lighthouse. There is a campground at Cape Banks as well. There's only about 5 sites there, and same as number 2 Rocks, you do have to pre-book. And you can see the lighthouse up ahead there. That's beach access on the right, where we will definitely be heading down to the beach. I have driven this section of beach some years ago in the Pajero. And that's the campground there on the left. There's a long drop in there, and yeah, 5 sites. You book those with Parks SA, and they will only accept 1 vehicle per site as a booking. Even if you're just camping in swags that you're going to put right next to your car, that's just their rules. So if there's 5 of you, you're going to need to book all 5 sites. So coming up to the car park here in front of the lighthouse, just one other person here, and then we're getting ready to head off. So we were able to get the obligatory photo of the cars lined up in front of the lighthouse. It's a very orange lighthouse. I don't know how often they repaint it, but that paint looks as fresh as it did last time I was here, which is probably 5 years ago. First stop today since number 2 Rocks. A little bit windy. This is the Cape Banks Lighthouse here at Carpenters Rocks. This is the beach. It's a bit breezy today. And there's the view back to the northwest where we've sort of come from. Not quite as warm and sunny as it has been, but we really, for a late April trip, we can't complain about the weather, that's for sure. The beach is a long way down from here, but there is a beach access track, and we'll just have to see how high up that high tide comes. Now you might remember me mentioning about the Admella wreck, and we went down to the beach to see if we could see it. There was some information about that wreck at the Cape Banks Lighthouse. So the SS Admella actually struck a reef near dawn on August 6th of 1859, about 4 kilometres northwest of the Cape Banks Lighthouse. And very quickly the Admella broke into 3 sections, and they lost all the lifeboats. And after numerous brave but fatal attempts to reach the shore, which was a little over a kilometre away, 2 seamen, Leach and Knapman, on the second day struggled through the raging surf and set off for Port MacDonald. So there's several attempts, and 2 guys made it to shore. A number of people still stuck on the ship. The next day, telegraph from Mount Gambier sounded the alarm, and for a week the Admella remained helpless, while steamers that were attempting a rescue and people on the shore were frustrated by the elements and watched helplessly as one by one the passengers and crew dropped from exposure and exhaustion to a watery grave. Of the 101 passengers and crew on board the ship, a total of 77 perished. So only 24 survived of the 101 crew and passengers on the Admella. Travelling back then was certainly a lot more risky than it is now.
Can't say I've ever visited a lighthouse and then driven underneath it on the beach before.
No.
down on the beach now, just below the lighthouse. That's up above to the left of us. Nice wide beach, rocky point on the end here. Changed a bit since last time I was here. There's actually a little small boat wreck fairly much in the shallows of the beach here last time I was here. And just all five of us making our way down the beach. Is reasonably high, but it is quite a wide beach, so unfortunately I don't think high tide here goes all the way up generally. Maybe a king tide would. Here opting for the high line. Now there's some interesting white rocks that I think must have been put here since my last visit. I don't remember these being here. I don't remember these being here at all. And I think they've been put here to maybe stop the erosion just down this end of the beach. They did make an interesting sort of sound when you drove on them. Almost sounded like broken glass or something. I think at this point the guys weren't convinced that there was actually an exit. Having been on this beach before, I knew full well there was an exit up the other end.
No, I think we're good.
There must have been some concern as to whether there was going to be clearance to get around with the tide coming in. You can see there the water's right at the bottom of those rocks, so taking a low line at this time just wasn't really an option. And look, it's possible those rocks were here, and it's just that it was low tide when I was here last time and was able to drive down on the sand. So that's why I don't remember them. Yeah, you can hear that sound that they make when you drive over there. Really odd sound. Coming up on the exit here, and while it looks like you can go down the beach further, you certainly can drive down this beach further, but there is only this one exit. You can't get around at the very end of the point into the Carpenters Rocks beach or bay, so you do need to take this exit. Of course people come and they drive up that end of the beach to go swimming, fishing, what have you, but yeah, if you're looking to continue on, this is the exit you need to take. This was a lot softer last time, I remember. Maybe it just felt that way, I'm not sure. But it was pretty well packed today. I mean, it was a lot cooler today than last time I was here, so that certainly helped. Bit of a twisty exit. And this brings us back onto the gravel road, where we head into town to Carpenters Rocks. So yeah, just a couple of minutes and we're on the bitumen. We haven't aired up at this point because we're not going to be on the bitumen for very long. And just on the left there is the Nene Reserve, which is a free camp, just a big open grass area. There's no actual designated sites in there, and I think they might ask for a gold coin donation in the general store, which is just near there as well. So from here we're heading now to Blackfellow's Caves. We do have to stay on the bitumen for that. Blackfellow's Caves is a small fishing settlement on the SA coast, and it's named after a series of sea caves that are eroded into the limestone bluffs in that location. I haven't been able to find any specific information indicating local Aboriginal tribes utilise those caves, but I think the assumption's there, and that's where the name of Blackfellow's Caves has come from. So yeah, a few k's on the bitumen, and we'll be back off road very shortly. So in total, about a 7-kilometre run from Carpenters Rocks through to Blackfellow's Caves, and we just pulled into the car park there to have a look at that limestone bluff, and you can actually see some of those caves that this location is named for, right near the boat ramp here. So easy to find, plenty of car parking, and yeah, another opportunity to get out and stretch the legs a little bit. So you can see one of the caves there on the right, going in underneath that bluff, and there's a few of them along here. Another one under there. It's pretty calm just at the moment, and we're heading now from Blackfellow's Caves to Nene Valley. There was an access just on the right there down on the beach, but that section of the beach wasn't terribly drivable, so we just followed this track along a little further until we got to a beach access point that was going to work for us. Here we are, back on the beach. A lot of seaweed washed up on this beach, but a bit of a clear area through the middle. And yeah, this section of beach, basically all the way from here to Port MacDonald, probably doesn't get driven nearly as much as the more popular areas, and it can be very, very soft through here at times. This particular section, on the day we're here, cooler weather, it wasn't too soft, but certainly can be. And again, you can see those same white rocks along here. Again, I don't remember these from last time I drove along here in the patch, but as I said, it was definitely low tide in the patch, and I was driving on the beach and yeah, hoping for an exit. As you saw there, that getting pretty cozy. But yeah, no exit just yet, but we've definitely got a high road to follow, and that's going to keep us out of mischief for a while. Here's an exit where we cut across the headland. You could have kept driving down to the point there, but I'm pretty sure there was no access around the end of that point, certainly not with where the tides are at just at the moment. here. We're on top of a bluff, and you can see there was a lookout there, sort of just back there to the right. Again, we had a few Ks to cover today, and we've had a couple of stops. So yeah, two different accesses. I've elected to take this one on the right. Reasonably cosy. Like some of these tracks, you certainly wouldn't want to be driving one of those big American trucks like the Silverados, the Rams, or similar. But this beach looks good, pretty wide, room above the high tide. So once again, back on the sand. This is just a section of coast. It is a really nice drive along here. There's some very interesting sections which you'll see, and it's just not a section of coast that you see people driving, certainly on YouTube very often. There's definitely tyre tracks down here, so obviously locals come down here for fishing and whatnot, but there goes Luca. There's always one. And it's just a cracking beach run. You can see where the high tide has come to there. A little bit more space here, so it does vary markedly as you work your way along the beach. Sometimes you feel like you're running out of room, and other times like this you've got plenty of space. So one of those rare instances we've seen somebody else there on the left. Almost a sand highway through the middle here, and certainly making good time. So pretty chuffed with getting another really good beach run after yesterday's effort down along Canunda. And this one does come to an end as we're getting towards Nene Valley, which is another little township. And this really southern section of the coast is sort of punctuated by this. You're on the beach, you're off the beach, you're back on the beach. So you do jump on and off a fair bit. And you can see this track just comes straight onto a bitumen road at the Nene Valley. Basically, you drive through town and then onto a track at the other edge of town and back onto the beach. So and yeah, we've got our sandy track taking us back down to the beach. And again, another person we've run into, so a few solo adventurers along here. And certainly nothing wrong with that. I mean, I came along here in the Padge solo probably 5 years ago. And as long as you manage your tyre pressures accordingly, you'll be fine. Somebody actually coming the other way. I'm sure that could have even been a RAV4 or something. Road here, just a lot more comfortable to stay in the existing tyre tracks, and and off all that seaweed that's been washed up on the beach. Clearly there is an exit there, but we didn't feel the need to take that one. And you can see how eroded the banks there on the left are. As I've said in earlier episodes of this trip, this was just after they'd had some of the roughest weather along the SA coast here for years, and a lot of these beaches were closed. And clearly, if you get stuck here and the high tide's coming all the way up to those dunes, you've got nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere. And once again here you can see beach area that we've got to drive on is getting smaller once again, and if you look at the angle of the car you can see it is a bit off camber, and when you don't know how far you've got to drive exactly, as I said, I had been along here previously, but it was 4 or 5 years previous. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, and again you see the rocks coming like that, you just hope, yep, okay, there's going to be an exit. And so there was. Now as we crest over this, look on the left there, massive big drop down in there. Massive drop. So you don't want to hit this exit here too hard. You could easily find yourself doing a bit of mischief. Really big drop into a hole there. So then from here you've got two choices, down and back onto the beach on the right, or this interesting little climb on the left. So I did go down and have a look at the beach, because last time I came here in the Padge we definitely drove the beach route, but it's just a different time of day and a different time of year, and the tide is pretty high and there's not a lot of beach there to drive on. You can see that surge there came right up to those rocks. So yeah, really felt like definitely didn't have a lot of choice. Needed to take the left-hand option. And you can see, I think the main track is this far left one. I think somebody's cut, or a few somebody's have cut a bit of a bypass track in. This is a bit lumpy, full of wombat holes, and a little bit of a rock step, but nothing the Grenadier had any trouble with. And just, popped up that little rock step there at the end.
Yeah.
So here's a shot from behind. You can see that wheel travel on the rear wheel into the wombat hole. 70 would have been lifting wheels through here for sure.
Ah, nice little flex there, mate. You showed me your underbelly.
And that little sound of the compressor running is Luca putting his rear diff lock in. And with that, it just climbs straight out.
Would you like to climb? Yeah, it's not without challenge, that one, Adam.
Well, on the contrary, I engaged diff locks on that one.
Yeah, I put my rear diff in. There to be used.
So yeah, Luca and I both twin locked. Adam, I think, doesn't have a locker, but he does have that Nissan Patrol LXD. Paul, I'm pretty sure he's got at least one locker, if not twin locked, and Dan doesn't have a locker, just has traction control in his Prado, but the two-outer traction control is pretty good. And you can see this track here, reasonably cozy, sort of follows this fence line.
Everybody up that little climb? Yep.
And yeah, there's no moving away from those bushes.
Through these trees.
You've got the fence right on the left-hand side, so you're brushing past them. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, it might make for a good photo opportunity.
And what I was talking about was the trig point up there on the right that you could maybe just see. Unfortunately, it looks like it's one you've got to walk to. Assume the track would take us there, but we don't end up actually finding that trig point.
Yeah, this track's got a bit of everything.
I think we've gone past the trig. Thought the track was going to take us to the trig, but apparently not.
No.
So again, you can see this section just bordering onto some privately owned land there, fairly tight.
This straightest section of track might work. I'll pull up on this next bend.
Yeah, working our way along the headland. Another sort of lumpy little section. It's probably hard to see on camera there. The colours, I think, probably describe it, just disguising just how lumpy that section of track was. But you can see the vehicle moving as we're climbing up over it. Sort of pyramid-shaped rock island out there, and I've just noticed a little track here that looks like it heads down.
I think that track to the left is that track out of here. I'm just going to have a look where these go.
So now, had we been able to stay on the beach, this track that I'm heading down now is where we would have actually come back up off the beach. Definitely at a higher tide than when I came through here last time. That sand out to that little pyramid island was all dry and exposed last time I was here. The tide is reasonably high, and as you can see, not a lot of beach available at all. Cracking little spot down there though, with a really interesting little island, and just one of many spots along this coast that you could easily stop and spend a bit of time exploring and enjoying. little run up back to the main track area where the rest of the guys were. They didn't follow me down there. There wasn't all that much room. And yeah, we're definitely on an inland section here. But I think this is sort of around the Cape Douglas area. Just taking it slow and steady over these this lumpy sort of section here. So once again, not an incredibly difficult track by any stretch of the imagination. A little bit soft here, you can see, a little bit wet, and yeah, we've actually just driven out to this point here to have a little bit of a look. Always nice to see the surf coming in and breaking on the rocks. And we did get the opportunity once again to park the vehicles up for a bit of a photo shoot. Cracking spot with the waves breaking over the rocks behind us. Beach there. Again, one of a myriad of spots where you could easily take some time and have a little bit of fun. And explore this little area here somewhat more. So yeah, after our brief stop there, back in the vehicles and continuing on this track, heading towards Middle Point, Cape Northumberland and Port McDonald. So yeah, a little bit of a rocky climb here. But yeah, this is a cracking drive along the coast. You know, I do love the Vic High Country, but I also love this kind of stuff. Exploring the coastline, it's just so different and really engaging. And look, you know, the hardest part of these tracks, this kind of trip, is the soft sections on the beach, and largely that can be managed with your tyre pressures. Bit of a hole in the track there on the left. We didn't feel the need to drop a wheel in that one. And you can see as we crest here, sort of crossing this headland, I'm pretty sure this is Cape Douglas that we're on, and the next bay down in the distance there. And once again, the track changes from an open rocky track to a sandy dirt track enclosed by vegetation, just like that. This sand certainly was softish, but there was only a short section of that soft sand, so really shouldn't give anyone too much grief. You can see the fencing there on the right, indicating that, you know, don't drive out there. So all the way along here, anywhere you're not meant to take your vehicle, there is fencing and signage, so keep an eye out for that if you do explore this area. Unlike just here, there is no such signage. And yeah, just looking ahead to the track ahead. erosion gully here, and yeah, a bit of missed wheel placement there, and dropped the front passenger side wheel into that little hole. Still getting used to driving the Grenadier, so I took that opportunity to sort of practice wheel placement, and clearly more practice is required. Parking and viewing area here, and no doubt some walking tracks down to the beach as well. So that's what I mean. You could definitely take this a lot longer and take a lot more time. And yeah, this was almost surreal. You got this rocky little descent here, and then bitumen. Doesn't even transition to a gravel road. It's just bitumen. So once again, we knew this was a short stint on the bitumen, so just kept our speeds low. One thing with the Grenadier, I can monitor tyre temperatures, and yeah, before not very long, we're sort of through the little township there of Cape Douglas, and just east of Cape Douglas, we are back off-road onto the sandy tracks again, hunting the beaches. So clearly I'm leaning towards taking the right hand side track, but just double checking on the map to see if I can get an indication as to whether the right hand track actually goes anywhere or whether it's a bit of a dead end. And looks like I've convinced myself it probably goes somewhere, so we've taken the right hand track. Access track on the right there, I'm not sure why I didn't stop and look at that, but must have been able to see that didn't go to the beach. And again, you can see here we're sort of up on the headland above the beach. Pulled up to have a look at that access on the right there to see whether that looks like it goes down to the beach, and I've decided it doesn't. So yeah, another one there on the right. This one I've decided is worth checking out. Looks like it runs onto the beach. But there's also not a lot of room on this section of beach either. Through though, and we're back down close to the water with the white rocks on the right hand side of us. And yeah, so much limestone through here. It is, I think this is still part of what they call the limestone coast in South Australia, so not surprising really. And it is just an amazing coastline to drive. Yeah, and there are no sealed roads down through here, so you know this is a section of coast that if you want to see it, you've got to get out on these tracks, unless you're going to come and walk it or hike it, or I guess you can see it from the ocean in a boat, but if you want to see this coastline on land, you've got to get out on these tracks. There's just no other way to see it. There's no sealed roads, gravel roads to get into this part of the coast. If you have a look at the maps between Nene Valley or Blackfellow's Caves and Cape Northumberland, there really aren't any roads. There's a road into Nene Valley, of course, and there is a little bit of a road into Cape Douglas, but not much of anything. You can see here, once again, it makes you wonder, there's 3 or 4 separate locations there of campfires. It's like, do you really need to start a new spot for a campfire, guys? You know, what's wrong with using the one that the last guy used? Anyway, a lot of sheetrock through here. It almost looks like concrete. You can see here, we're driving up on that sheetrock now. Sand on the left there's eroded away a little bit. And once again, started that corner just a little bit too late. There's big open areas through here, so not surprising people have decided to use this spot as a bit of a camp spot. You certainly wouldn't be pitching any tents here, and you can see the edge of the rock there that we're driving on, it drops off quite sharply. But yeah, down the back here, looks like somebody's had a campfire there. Slow and steady through sections like this, but this whole trip was just so scenic, and you can see some decent sized dunes up ahead there, stabilised with some vegetation. Not sure why you would have driven off to the left there, but obviously some people did. A little bit softer there. You can hear the car picking up and working a little bit harder. And we're just coming up here on Middle Point. And this little spot here is where we're going to end this video today. Bit of a parking area here, bit of a fishing shack or something there. You know, very reminiscent of the high country huts. But yeah, a bit of a fishing spot there, I think. Walking access down to the beach there.
And a nesting area out there.
And yeah,
That's all right.
there's a fireplace here.
That's all right.
And a couple of bench seats.
It's all good.
A bit of shelter. And a fire pit out the front.
Coastal version of a high country hut. Just as much graffiti as we'd see in a high country one. Pot belly, little fire pit with ocean front views. Sitting in here with a fire going, could be a bit of all right.
Definitely think so. And out the back, we had what we came to call a short drop, because that's literally a bucket under that toilet seat. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Leave some comments down below. Always love reading those. And I will see you in the next video, where we head off from Middle Point to our campground east of Port MacDonald. So see you then. Thanks guys.